This is one of those situations where everything lines up perfectly for the 49ers, and you don't always get moments like this in an offseason. A wide receiver who already knows the building, already understands the culture, and already has a relationship with the head coach has made it clear he wants to be back. That alone should grab your attention, because free agency is usually filled with guessing games and leverage plays. This isn't that. This is a player telling you exactly what he wants. And it just so happens to match a major need on the roster. When you look at the state of the wide receiver room right now, it's impossible to ignore the uncertainty. This is a group that dealt with constant injuries, lineup changes, and shifting roles. That instability showed up at different points, and it's why strengthening this room has to be near the top of the priority list. That doesn't mean you blow it up or chase every shiny new name on the market. Sometimes the smartest move is recognizing when continuity actually helps you more than chaos. What makes this situation even more interesting is that this isn't about finding a savior or a so-called number one receiver. It's about building a functional, reliable group that can survive an entire season. Not every move has to be flashy to be effective, and that's where this conversation really starts to matter. Letting every free agent receiver walk just because they're not a superstar would be a mistake, especially when one of them is openly campaigning to return and help stabilize the room. Before we go any further, let me ask you this because I'm genuinely curious where you stand. Do you think the 49ers should prioritize bringing back players who already know the system? Yes or no? Drop your answer in the comments because that mindset really shapes how you view this entire situation. And if you enjoy these kinds of conversations that go deeper than headlines, make sure you're subscribed and notifications are on. The goal is to hit 1,000 subscribers, and if you're watching consistently but haven't subscribed yet, this is the easiest way to support the channel and stay locked in on everything the 49ers are doing. What really makes this feel like a missed opportunity waiting to happen is that the team doesn't have to guess how this would work. There's history here, there's familiarity, there's proof that this player can step in during chaos and contribute without derailing the offense. That matters. More than ever when you consider how unpredictable the rest of the offseason could become. And that naturally leads into the most important part of this discussion, because it's not just about need, it's about intent. When a player says he's trying to come back and backs it up with real relationships inside the building, that changes the entire conversation. When a player goes out of his way to say he wants to come back, that's not something you should brush aside, especially in today's NFL. Kendrick Bourne didn't dance around the question or give a vague answer. He was direct. He talked about having a good relationship with Kyle Shanahan, about having a positive exit meeting, and about actively trying to make a return happen. That matters more than a lot of people realize because it tells you this isn't about desperation or chasing a paycheck. This is about fit. The 49ers put a huge emphasis on culture, trust, and locker room chemistry. They don't just hand out contracts to anyone. Who can run routes, they want players who buy into what they're building and who understand their role. Bourne has already shown that he checks those boxes, he knows the expectations, he knows how demanding this system can be, and maybe most importantly, the coaching staff already knows exactly who he is as a professional. Think about how rare that is in free agency. Most of the time, you're projecting. You're hoping a guy adapts quickly, you're crossing your fingers that the personality fits the room and that the transition is smooth. With Kendrick Bourne, there's no mystery. There's no learning curve when it comes to attitude or effort. The only question is whether the 49ers are willing to take advantage of that clarity. Let me throw this question your way because it says a lot about how you view roster building. How important is it to you when a player genuinely wants to be in San Francisco? Does that actually move the needle for you, or do you only care about raw talent? Let me know in the comments because this is where opinions really start to split. This is also a good moment to hit the like button if you appreciate discussions that go beyond box scores and contracts. It helps the channel grow and it lets me know you want more breakdowns like this throughout the offseason. And if you're not subscribed yet, now's the time. We're pushing toward 2,000 subscribers, and staying subscribed means you won't miss any updates as these roster decisions start to unfold. What stands out to me is that Bourne's openness removes so much uncertainty. The front office doesn't have to guess whether he'll buy in or whether he'll accept his role. He's already telling you he's all in. In a wide receiver room that's filled with questions, that kind of certainty is valuable, and once you understand that intent, the next logical step is to look at what he actually brought to the field and whether the production matches the opportunity. When you actually look at what Kendrick
Bourne did on the field this past season, the production deserves a lot more respect than it gets at first glance. Context matters, and his situation had more working against it than almost any receiver on the roster. He wasn't part of a full off-season program. He didn't have a training camp to build timing. He was brought in after the season had already started because injuries had turned the wide receiver room into a revolving door. And despite all of that, he still found a way to be productive. He finished with over 550 receiving yards, and that number hits differently when you remember how late he joined the team. This wasn't someone who had months to get comfortable. He was asked to step in, learn on the fly, and contribute immediately. That's not easy in this offense, especially for a receiver who had been away from the system for years. Yet week after week, he was available, reliable, and ready when his number was called. Availability is something fans often overlook, until it's gone. The 49ers dealt with constant injuries at wide receiver, and that instability forced players in and out of roles they weren't always ready for. Ricky Pearsall's usage was inconsistent. Jawan Jennings battled injuries early. Brandon Ayuk wasn't available. Through all of that, Bourne was steady. He didn't complain. He didn't disappear. He just lined up and did his job. And then there's the Rams game, which felt like a time machine back to 2019. That performance wasn't an accident or a fluke. It was a reminder that the skill set is still there. He created separation, made tough catches, and showed he could still be a difference maker when given opportunities. For a player who had been on the roster for roughly a month at that point, that says a lot about his preparation and football IQ. Beyond the numbers, there's also the energy he brought to the team. This was a season filled with ups and downs, and maintaining a positive locker room isn't easy when injuries pile up. Bourne helped keep things loose. The tunnel walks, the boombox, the connection with teammates like Trent Williams, those things matter. They don't show up on a stat sheet, but they help keep a team together during tough stretches. So here's a question for you. When you evaluate a receiver, do you care more about raw stats, or do you factor in context like availability and role? Drop your answer in the comments, because this is where Kendrick Bourne's value really starts to separate from surface level analysis. If you're enjoying this breakdown, make sure you're subscribed and hit like on the video. We're closing in on 2,000 subscribers, and your support keeps this channel growing and covering every angle of the 49ers offseason. When you combine solid production, reliability, and positive impact in the locker room, it becomes clear that Bourne brought real value to this team. And that value becomes even more important once you zoom out and look at the bigger picture surrounding the rest of the wide receiver room. Once you zoom out and look at the entire wide receiver picture, this conversation gets even more interesting, because Kendrick Bourne isn't just about what he did last season, he's about what happens next, especially with so many unanswered questions still hanging over this group. The biggest one, of course, centers on Jawan Jennings and what the 49ers decide to do with him. There's no disrespect here at all, because Jennings earned his opportunity when he was healthy, especially in the back half of the season. He played some of the best football of his career. He found the end zone consistently, he was reliable on key downs, and he proved he can be more than just a role player. If he's looking for a contract, he's justified. The tricky part is that the 49ers already had a chance to lock him up before, and they chose not to. That hesitation matters, because it tells you they may not be fully committed to paying him what the market could demand. That's where reality sets in. If Jennings hits free agency, there's a very real chance another team steps in with a better offer. It only takes one team to value him as a priority piece, and if that happens, the 49ers could suddenly find themselves thinner at wide receiver than expected. That's not a risk you want to take lightly, especially when you're already planning to retool the room. This is exactly why bringing back Kendrick Bourne makes so much sense. He becomes the safety net. He's the veteran presence who can stabilize a group that's likely getting younger through the draft or additional free agent signings. You're not asking him to replace a number one receiver.
You're asking him to help anchor the room while new pieces find their footing. Let me ask you this, because it's a tough but important question. If you had to choose, would you rather see the 49ers pay Jawan Jennings or keep Kendrick Bourne as a reliable fallback option? There's no wrong answer here, but I want to know where you stand, so drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you appreciate honest conversations about roster decisions like this, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We're pushing toward 1,000 subscribers, and your support helps keep these discussions going all off-season long. The 49ers want to get younger, but they also can't afford to lose leadership and reliability at the same time. Signing a 30-year-old receiver doesn't mean you're moving backward. Sometimes it means you're protecting yourself from instability, and with so many moving parts still in play, having Kendrick Bourne in the mix gives you flexibility instead of forcing you into desperation. All of that becomes even more important when you look at how quickly the wide receiver market is already starting to shrink, because waiting too long can leave you with far fewer options than you expected. The reason timing matters so much in this conversation is because the wide receiver
market never waits for anyone. Every offseason, names come off the board faster than fans expect, and once that happens, your options shrink in a hurry. We're already seeing signs of that. Teams are locking in their plans, franchise tags are coming into play, and players who once felt like possibilities are suddenly unavailable. That's how quickly things can change. For the 49ers, this is where a move like bringing back Kendrick Bourne becomes less about excitement and more about smart insurance. If the front office misses on a top free agent receiver, or if the draft doesn't fall the way they hope, you don't want to be scrambling. You don't want to be forced into a bad deal or a poor fit just because you waited too long. Bourne gives you a stable, known option in a market that's becoming increasingly unpredictable. He's already proven he can produce on short notice. Over 550 receiving yards after joining late in the season isn't nothing. That's real production under
less than ideal circumstances. Now imagine what that looks like with a full offseason, a full training camp, and a clearly defined role from day one. There's a strong case that his impact could actually increase, not decline. There's also the human element here, which matters more than people like to admit. Teammates respect him, fans connect with him. The energy he brings is genuine, and that kind of presence helps sustain a locker room through the long grind of a season. When a player like that wants to be part of your team, ignoring it doesn't make much sense. So I'll leave you with this final question. If you were making the call, would you bring Kendrick Bourne back knowing what you know right now? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments, because this is one of those decisions that tells you a lot about how a team views its identity. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you're subscribed and hit the like button. We're on the road to 2,000 subscribers, and every bit of support helps the channel continue to grow and deliver consistent 49ers coverage. Keep notifications on, because there's going to be plenty more to talk about as this offseason unfolds. Before we wrap things up, I want to make it clear that this isn't about sentimentality or nostalgia. It's about logic. Kendrick Bourne has shown he still has it, he fits the culture, and he wants to be here. When all three of those boxes are checked, the decision becomes pretty simple.